Hello, guys, and welcome to this. I won't call it a webinar; it's a chat because it's a great chat between two friends. And on behalf of NIFTA, as you all know, NIFTA is an alumni association of NIFTians across all faculties to create and opportunities, help each other, chat with each other, discover each other on a platform together. So today is a wonderful day, and welcome to Cutting Chai, an inspiring journey of a friend, a colleague, a classmate over the many years that we have been together, been known each other. Class of 1990, NIFT, Sunita Shanker. And Sunita, welcome to the chat.
Hi, thank you, Nari. I'm so happy to join today and have a conversation.
I know you were really not happy when I asked you the first time. You said, "What am I going to say to people?" And I don't talk that much. That's what you said. But your journey has been fascinating, and a lot to learn from a lot of people. I admire the work that you have done over these years, and we would love to really share this as a chat with other NIFTians and people across on the group. To begin with, tell me about where you grew up, where you were born, where you grew up, what kind of school you went to, all of that. And what is your mother's name?
What is my mother's name? That's great. Yeah, well, she's a pillar of strength, and she's the one who initiated a lot of things for me that I wanted to do and supported me through. It's strange that I was born in Varanasi because my mother is from Varanasi. So normally people went to their hometown to deliver babies. So I was one of them to be delivered in a hometown that was Varanasi. I grew up in Delhi, and I went to Cognitive Jason. Pardon? So I went to Cognitive Jason.
Did you go to college at all, or was?
No, I did.
Oh, right, okay.
With much reservation. I joined Jesus Mary College with economics honors, and in the first year itself, I realized this was not what I wanted to do. I'm also a trained classical dancer, so that was another thing. I realized that I wanted to pursue something in creative field. I was interested in music. I loved sketching. It was just being creative was a great thing for me. And I dropped out of after the first year in college. I dropped out of college. So what, Navi?
Going back a bit, what was school life like? What were your interests, and what was your favorite food while you were in school?
I don't think so. I had any sense of food when I was in school.
Right.
You just enjoyed, you ate anything that was around. We didn't have much of choice those days. And we just had a great friendship. I loved my school, and it has some most beautiful and cherishable memories. I discovered a lot of things about myself. I don't think so. If there are a lot of things that when you're not confident as a young kid, a school like that helps you to build up on your confidence. You had very good teachers who, in fact, encouraged you, and they sort of observed what you're good at. They honed your skills, they encouraged you. So I really was fortunate to go to a school like that. And even at home, I was encouraged and pursued.
So, either of your parents in the arts background, or were they different? What did they do? What did your parents do?
So my dad studied chemistry and photography in Germany, and we come from a photography family. And my mother was a very well-educated woman. She did her double masters in child psychology and ancient history in BHU. and she was also into theater. So I think that I was brought up in an environment where all of us had to have some kind of creative interest. They nurtured that, you know. So it was my mother who thought I had a rhythm, and I have an older sister. Both she and I were put into a dance school after that.
Right. So what was one of the best things about school and one of the worst things about school?
I think you have to study. The homework was there, the test you don't like, you know. And the best things were friends, and you were pranking around. You had so much fun. The teacher became your friends, you know. It was really great, you know. I mean, I don't think so that I went to a convent, so it was like more no boys around. You missed interacting with boys or being in a co-ed. I think we had much fun at home also because we had a variety of friends, and it was great time because we could play around. Now you can't even think about it that we were always on the streets, running around, climbing trees, trying new things all the time.
So you can't do that. So once, how did your interest in textile design, I know you started out as a dancer, and how did it move, and how did that dancing come about, and how did it get into design and clothing?
So you have to be exposed to an environment. So every summer we went for summer vacations to Varanasi, if you please, in the heat. And you got to see a lot of things. You know, the cultural scenario was very vibrant. Then you have, your mother wore the most exquisite handcrafted and handloom saris, you know, so you were anywhere looking at it. You were surrounded by people who were artists. You had an aunt who was a painter. It was a creative environment that I was in, you know, apart from like, it's like something like where people were thinking of becoming doctors and all. I had everything that you need to be, you know, to nurture your creativity. Dance was something, as I said, my mother thought that I had
and you think now that environment is necessary for people to develop a talent or recognize a talent kind of stuff? How necessary is parents' participation in a child's life in these developmental stages?
It's very important. It's very important. And I think the most important thing is that the parents have to try to refrain from making kids competitive. That's the worst thing that can happen. You have to enjoy any pursuit. You don't have to, you give it your best shot. I think I danced, and if I was a good dancer, was basically because I enjoyed dancing. You know, I never thought that I had to impress the other person, which is like, I don't know, I thought that way. But I think we as parents today have to, be very, very cautious about not pushing our kids and inducing competitiveness. It is something that they have to savor and enjoy. You know, you can't learn by, you can't compete with people. This one is a better dancer. I'm not. I have to be better than that. You know, you can't compete. You have to enjoy. You have to experience it. It's more about experience. And as dance is concerned,
it's more about experience in life.
Yeah, and as dance concerned, as an inspiration, my work is like it disciplined me. It totally disciplined me. It allowed me to be free, express freely. Yeah.
Right. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Now I can.
Right. So, okay, you're frozen. That's why I'm wondering. Okay, so you got into NIFT, and you told me an interesting journey on how you got into NIFT. How did that happen, and what was your early days in college like?
So I when I dropped out of college, I started doing a lot of illustration work for Saturday Times and a whole lot of evening news, midday news they used to have. So that gave me little courage to carry on. And I thought, I needed to get into fashion. So someone told my mother, in fact, she read about NIFT, and she said, you must apply for it. And I did apply and I sat for the exam, which was great, and I got through, and I had got an interview call. But in the meantime, I had been selected by ICCR to perform in South America, and I,
Right.
yeah, so I just went. It was very difficult for me, a decision to make. I just told ICCR that it was not going to be a possibility for me to go to South America. It was a group. We were going as a group, but I was one of the main people in the group. And I mean, it was disappointing for everybody. So finally, they said, why don't you just find out if there's a possibility that can be worked out? So I took an appointment with Mrs. Rati Vineja, who was the director then, and I really told her what the scene was like. So she said, I mean, initially she said it's not possible. Then she called me when I returned home. She called me back and she said, come, you can do one thing. You get a letter from ICCR that we look into it, and if you have done well um, in your test and entrance test, then we can consider something. So I was in ICCR, that was Ministry of Culture, sent a letter to Ministry of Textile, and my interview got preponed. And it was the worst interview of my life, Nari. It was the worst interview of my life, but I got it.
But yet you made it. Yet you made it through, and you got into. So how did your interest in textiles and doing this develop? How did you get this kind of stuff? Did you know you had to do it right away when you were in school, when you were in class, or it did happen after you finished?
It didn't happen before school, before I joined NIFT. It didn't happen while I was in NIFT. It didn't happen when I left NIFT. Okay, but I do know that I had a good sense of understanding of Indian textiles because I lived on Hanuman Road. So I had the State Emporium and I had the Cottage Emporium. I used to visit Dastakar, so you got to see the craftsmen, or you were interested. And I said, as my mother used to wear saris, so it was my job to go and get blouses for it, and the blouses were not plain single color, but you were, I mean, it was a test for me to try and match good blouses. Apart from that, it just happened that I had won some competition at NIFT, which had been organized, Alumni contest. And there was this, it was around in 1994, EPCH was doing a fashion show with some designers. So there was then this gentleman called late Mr. Ajay Shankar. I wasn't related to him at all. We only share the common names like the Sharmas do and the Soods do and everybody. So we had just had the common surname. And he suggested that, I took up a place like Bagh to work a collection for EPCH then. Well, of course, with a
Right.
lot of hesitation, I embarked and I went to Bagh and came back to the collection, which was well received. So, and
Which is
I
well
would,
received.
yeah, but I wouldn't still say that it was my forte because I still did not realize, till I got another it was associated, the state textile organization was felicitating the thing. So they sort of called me back to do vegetable dye printing in whole of Madhya Pradesh. So it came to Bagh, Bhairokar, Neemaj. So the following year, I was traveling to these places.
And then, and one of the reasons why I said this is the bandit queen of sustainable design was really your travels through all of these, remote places in Madhya Pradesh. What was it like then traveling to places like this? Did you go by air? Did you travel by train? Was it first class? What was life there?
So there was, luckily for me, there was this airlines called Archana Airlines, which was a very small plane, it was a chartered plane. So it took me to Bhopal. Yeah, that was fine.
Right.
And then I was driven from Bhopal via Indore to Bagh. But it was such a beautiful drive. I felt, I think that people, and if students are listening to me, if things get better, don't do anything. Please travel in your country. It's the most beautiful thing you will do. You'll discover so many things. What you studied, you realize it's right there. I didn't know about Madhya Pradesh at all. And it was so green and beautiful. And on the way, Bagh is in Dhar district, and it was a little dangerous area. So I was given security.
Dangerous means what? Dangerous means you told me that you had security that
Yeah, we were
traveled with
given
you.
security. So the people sitting in Macau were very scared. And I was young, so I was just wondering, why are they so scared? It's so beautiful out here. They said, madam, you can have dacoits anywhere. I said, really? I didn't know that. But that's the way we traveled.
Right. That is why Bandit Queen.
No, no,
Everybody
I'm
knows the
not a
story of Fulan
bandit
Devi.
queen.
That's why I
I'm not a bandit queen.
traveling to these countries, traveling through the interior of India. You've worked with, what is the stuff that you discovered? What are the few things that you loved about it, about India at that point? And what made you really, dwell deeper and deeper into this area? Was it the travel? Was it meeting people there? Was it getting your hands on to really doing everything by yourself? What did you feel like you were empowering other people? What is it that worked for you?
So I was too young to think in terms of empowering, but the fact that it was a different region with greenery. I mean, look at the trees. The forest was beautiful. The Satpura hills were lovely. And then you got to meet people, which was nice. And then I envied, it was such a lovely thing to see that people were working outside in the open. They were making colors from roots, they were making colors from barks, they were doing all the processes right in the open and yet being very productive. For me, that was
Right.
really enchanted, because we normally thought we have to sit in a studio, get the tailors to work, master, and we have a very, very conformist way of working. And yet this was not, and I have been an unconformist person. So for me, it was very, very enlightening and wonderful.
So, while you were working out there with these tribals or people in the villages, what kind of places did you stay in? Did you have like an air-conditioned room to stay in? Do you had a five-star hotel? What was life
No,
like
it is
when you were
never.
working out?
I don't think so. If I was making that choice of traveling to villages, I wasn't expecting any luxury. And this is the first thing we have to realize. Then
Right.
when you make those choices, you have to understand what comes along with it. And
Right.
so when in Bagh, I barely stayed there because I returned the same evening. But when I made that, I took on the consultancy work of vegetable printing in all the areas of Madhya Pradesh. It was the ministry's work to make sure that I was in a safe surrounding. I was staying in a relatively comfortable place. You can't have five-star, and you don't care. You're so
Government
tired.
guest house?
Yeah, government guest house were there. If they were not government guest house, there were, yeah, you did have government guest house. And sometimes it used to get too dark. So you used to find some decent place to go and stay. They made those arrangements for you. So that they made sure that it was, I think it was a good thing that I started with the ministry. Otherwise, it was very difficult for me to embark on a journey on my own.
So what about new people who would get on to this today? What would you say to them? How would you think they should get on to something like this?
I think please don't go around thinking that you're going to make a big change. First, you learn what is happening, adapt,
Right.
travel, be humble. It's very important, and be open. You'll see a lot of things. A lot of times, I think that a lot of people, students will understand that it's not necessary that you have to pursue a profession in fashion or clothing. You might just find something else. You might just discover a photographer in you. You might just discover a filmmaker in you, an environmentalist in you. It can evoke such kind of things, and there's no limit to it.
So stepping back a little, while before you started out, college was where we all learned design and it was quite fun. What was your favorite subject out there?
I loved fashion illustration. I loved
You
it.
like
But not Elsa's class. It's Archana's class where you used to do model drawing. Do you remember?
right, live model drawing.
Live, and we had then he was a lab assistant, Mr. Murgeson, who fainted also. You remember that?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So, so sketching and illustration was something that you love.
Yeah, I
And,
did.
and your lines, when I look at your artwork, your lines are very distinctive,
Yeah.
there is a style to your illustration. Where do you get that style from? How does that come?
When I was doing the model drawing, I don't like to pass over things too much. I want to, my illustration might be taking me 10 or 15 minutes. So it's just more lines and I have to be definite. It doesn't happen in a jiffy. I will tell you one thing that Nari, during the lockdown, I hadn't illustrated for quite some time. So when I got down to illustration, I was like a
Right.
cat on a hot tin roof. I was not sure because when you don't do something, it just is like you're rusting. Actually, I almost thought I have abandoned the art, or the art has abandoned me. But it's
Right.
just that you have to get into that frame. I just picked up books on great masters. Nothing, I've got no lines of a great master, but it just inspired me, and I
Right.
just
So, so the great masters inspired you. Any particular artist that you liked a lot that helped you define your style of illustration?
I don't think so. I have any artist. I mean, how will I say I'm anywhere close to Matisse? There's nothing about me which is like him, or Van Gogh for that matter. No, it's just that you evolve. I mean, it's a subconscious thing. You just evolve. You want clarity. I don't, as I mentioned, that I don't
You,
like fuss. Even in my work where design is concerned, I don't like fuss at all. So that is important.
so that's what's important. So, there is a certain aesthetic to your design. When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
look
yeah,
at it,
yeah,
when
yeah,
you see
yeah.
the line, when you see, where does that aesthetic come from? How did you develop
So,
that
so
aesthetic?
in my
Which were
education,
your designers who influenced you?
no, in my formative years in college, I rather would say that just before college, I was introduced to a great guru, Japanese guru, who introduced me. The
Right.
guru in his aesthetics, he was into environment, he was into natural food textiles and all that stuff that you need. And he introduced me to the Japanese sensibility, the Japanese way of thinking. When I was young, I did not understand because I thought it was plain and simple. And, going to NIFT, we were always thinking, okay, we'll do a bustier and we'll do this, we'll do that, those complicated.
It
Because,
was very westernized, the
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
at that point,
yeah, yeah.
because our
And
our yeah.
yeah, yeah, because you were doing darts and manipulation and all. Yeah, you were into something totally explained to me, working away from body, showed me a whole lot of work by Issey Miyake, introduced me to a designer, he's no more, German designer called Jürgen, who worked extensively out of India. And they were able to, that is where you realize that these people used our craft, our textiles, and were able to transform it into their language and their own sensibility. It was a great medium, though I don't work in craft taking it as a tool. It is more inspirational journey for me. So
So
that is where I
so
got.
when you look at something like that, when you say, you were inspired by Japanese aesthetics, how would you define it? I mean, and what does it really mean to you, that kind of aesthetic, and how did you bring that to be associated with India, Indian crafts or Indian textiles?
So it's more about minimalism. It is
Right,
more about clothing. It's more about, it's not fashion, it moves from fashion. It's moving away from the body all the time. There's a structure to it. And the Japanese have succeeded in using Indian textiles in the most exquisite manner because they have been
right,
sensitive to it. And you look at it,
right.
you would, I mean, and I still would use my Indian aesthetics and sensibility because it's wonderful. Why will I move away from a red or a fuchsia? Or we are a vibrant culture, so you have to find a way. I wouldn't say that I have found a way which is midway, but I do a couple of lines where one is always a minimalist and one will always be vibrant because they are the language that I understand,
So
and
you're saying that you divide your your business, when you divide your work, which to appeal to a certain section, which is minimalist and Japanese, and the color section to India, would you say that would be an Indian sensibility? Should one look at their business like that, or stay just true to what they love?
It's there's no ballpark, you know, anyone can do anything they want to. We are in a creative field. Are you ready to explore? Why is it? I mean, I was not in a hurry. You and I did too many things to arrive here, Nari. We did too many things.
Right.
We tried on so many things. I did theater costume. I worked in the export house. I worked in domestic market. So when you look at it, when I saw my business, I said, I do have a fairly good understanding of colors. And I can work for the Indian, because why will I miss out on my Indian sensibility, which is my roots? And something that I acquired, because it's a long process. I mean, you've been introduced, you're constantly interacting. So you think that way. I find in my personal taste, I definitely go for the minimalistic look. You know, the Indian is maybe something I'll take because it's your state of mind. I feel
But
far more comfortable. I feel far more comfortable.
so how much of what you do needs to be commercial, and how much needs to be driven by pure passion?
I think I look at it, it's tough. I don't look at it as pure fashion. I look at it with commercial point of view, and I look at it from the aesthetic point of view. I look at it from a very practical point of view. It's in the past 10 years, Nari, that craft has come back, and it's come back in a different way. It's come back in a big way. And you have been working on it, you know, and you have been a gradual person where your growth is organic and everything. But general people have worked with a great rush. I feel that I need to understand, I need to learn, I need to grow, I need to explore. And that's the way I work. I mean, I don't, and there's always business point of view. And when you do a minimalistic, you will have everybody wearing it. The market has changed now. When we started to what it's become, it's evolved. It's no longer a nascent market, but they demand everything from a minimalistic look to Indian look. You have everything happening under the sun, right? So you want to work
This
accordingly.
craft world and sustainable world. Where did it start? When you started, where was it, and where do you think it is today, and where do you think it's going to head tomorrow?
I think we have to be a little careful because the past 10 years, we have rushed everything. So when I look at it, and I have spoken to very known craftspeople and people from the councils and the doers, and you realize that, you know, when you rush people and you talk in terms of production with a craft person, they will be overlooking their skills. They will overlook what actually craft stood for, exquisite, great workmanship, piece of art. It doesn't become like that. It becomes very commercial. You're not developing something new. You have no time to develop something new because you got into that bandwagon of running in a hurry, making things, oh, craft is in. You're not looking at the quality. So you have
Right.
no design, there's no new design development, craft takes its own time. It's like the grass needs its own time to grow. And you have to understand that it has to be a slow process. You can't push it. You know, if the crowd, everybody is left quite exhausted. I mean, I know that this is a difficult time, but it's the right time for people to restructure, rework, and reinvent. You know, you can't keep on running. It was just too much of out of control consumerism at every level. That was a worrisome situation. Now you need to sit and recalibrate and rethink, reinvent, do it properly, nicely. You can't push people to keep on buying. You can't make people keep on selling. You will never find. You need to find a good balance where knowledge is never overlooked. See, when you look at when does craft become investments? Crafts are investments for us. So it's a worked on piece. It's painstaking. It's beautiful. Every region has something to offer. So if you're going to tell them do
Right.
simplify things, you know, we'll do it faster. I don't think so. I'm going to keep a piece with me forever. It needs to have that appeal. It needs to have that um, uh, sense, that the sensibility as well as the substance that you look for it. It's handcrafted.
So right. So if I've seen the fashion scene in India, from the first fashion week 20 years ago till now, when the first fashion week started, and I saw that a lot of Indian design and fashion week were the first ones where all 80% were sort of Indian design kind of thing, and 20% was sort of Western. You know, uh, from the designers that was there. And then 10 years down the line, it became 80% Western because Indian design looked at Western design or Western designers for validation. What has happened now and what I see now is that over the last 5 years, 7 years, a lot of young Indian designers are looking at Indian textiles to inspire them and are being able to create a kind of global sensibility using Indian textiles. Do you think that journey is right, or do you think that we should keep craft limited to Indian silhouettes, Indian clothing, or
No,
should it
no,
be
I don't think
westernized?
I don't think of anything like that, because look at it. When you look at history of textiles, the world, we've traded humongous amount of textiles all over the world, and people have worn it.
Right,
If you know the Paithani saris, the Paithani was the greatest brocade that you had, where the Romans waited, the women waited to wear their wedding, make the wedding gowns out of it. So it's a historical thing that the textiles is irrespective of what garments you're designing. Textiles have its own value. They have their own standing. They don't need a validation from a garment by becoming a garment or the way we use it. It is how we understand the sensibility. We don't take our craft to be a tool. We we
your clothes
incorporate.
were at your journey has been at, your clothes have been shown at the Smithsonian. How did that happen?
Good.
It's in the Silk Museum in Japan. Which is one of your proudest moments, and how has that happened?
My proudest moment, I can't say, because it's all been a learning moment for me. So I remember doing this craft project out of uh, Sikkim, and we were just thinking what we do, and I worked out a whole range of soft furnishings, and I did wooden boxes with tanka paintings. So at the Smithsonian, the Fair Sackler Gallery, they have the museum shop. They retail the samples. They got the reorder, but we were not equipped to do the reorder. We weren't equipped to work on the reorders. Whereas
Right.
in '96, I was invited to Japan by Japan Foundation to be a part of a textile community. And there was also another designer from India, textile designer Gopika Nath, with me. And we went all over Japan, showing our work, explaining things like that. That was really nice. And the following year, then a gallery contacted me, and they wanted to do an exhibition of my work. So, and I was very fortunate. The gallery bought, before I could exhibit, the gallery bought the entire collection from me, and they sent me a ticket to Japan,
Right.
hosted me there. I was there for 2 weeks, had a good time, and I came back and I
I love
learned.
this. I love the country.
I love it. Okay, that's my favorite
Yeah.
country. I keep on going. It's just that. So I've seen the country changing from '96 to what it is.
You,
And that way, then I had people who took my work and exhibited at the at Takashimaya. And
right.
on one occasion, Yogandale had an exhibition in one gallery. Next to it, I was having an exhibition. I wasn't there in Japan.
Right.
And he was taking everybody to show my work. So these are nice things. You come to know from people what
What happens out there?
yeah.
So your business, coming to your business thing, setting up your factory, setting up your unit, doing the work. How do you manage all of that? What do you do out there to manage it? How do you manage production? What kind of team do you have to handle it? your
So
work?
I've been a very reluctant business person, but I got into it. I didn't want to do business. I wanted to design, then I wanted to do illustration. I want to do other things. But you just got into it. And I don't think so. As a nonconformist, I don't work the way the rest work. I don't have everything under the roof. Since I work a lot in the craft sector, a lot of my work is done outside. So that is developing textiles or whatever it is. I have a studio where I have these 6 people working there, and it's very interesting because I've given opportunity to young people and educated them, and they've started coordinating. So it's empowering a lot of people. My workshop is in a separate place, so where you saw that a tailor was able to, I use my tailor who you trained and he was able to handle a workshop for you. So that is done separately for me. I have people to handle it for me. But whereas it comes to designing, it's only done by me because there is a small segment of design that you're doing. It's not work intensive in terms of a lot of embroidery and couture, and you need all that support. I don't have.
So
Yeah.
if you were to talk about the design, the business part of your design, what has been the toughest part and what has been the most enjoyable part?
I think developing textiles and designing clothing has been an interesting part. The toughest part, I think, since the GST happened, accountancy I can't handle. So I have now my husband who sort of is retired from sailing, handling that. I will never understand. I thought I could never even sell a garment or piece of fabric if I had to handle GST. So that accountancy I don't like really.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm there.
You can hear me. Sorry. Okay. So I didn't get the last part of yourself. You said the toughest part and the easiest part of doing this business. For
Yeah.
someone, I have a
Yeah.
I have some questions. We have some questions that have come in from a lot of our viewers today, and I'm going to take a few of the questions on this right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So this is from.
I can't hear you.
How to take inspiration from your surroundings when we are stuck at home at this present situation?
Can you repeat that because I missed out? I couldn't hear the previous line.
So how to take inspiration from your surroundings when we are stuck at home in this present situation? From Upam Abaji.
It's a tough call. I think the best thing for you would be to read books, to see things, to watch movies where what surroundings you want to be. Watch document. I watch a lot of documentary. I love them, and I find them very inspiring. And read things that interest you, because that will help you. If you draw, please draw. Use color. Work on mediums that you like.
Next question.
Narendra, you're not around. I can't see you.
Can you?
I can't hear you and I can't see you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
You can hear me, right? Okay, so there's some glitch happening out there. Second question from Shruti, student NIFT Delhi, Faridabad. How to talk with an artisan and convince them to join hands with us in our journey of creating things?
You know, I believe since I have been in performing arts, I think there's something distinctly known as Guru Shishya Parampara, right? And the
Right.
student is always learning from the teacher. You can interact with the teacher, you can have some suggestions. And the first thing when you go to a craftsman, an artisan, he knows his job very well. He knows his work very well. He's well acquainted and well versed with his medium. So if you go with an attitude that, you know, I want to change your design, I want to design for you, I will show you design, it'll be a tough call. If
Right.
you if you take him to be your teacher and you say, can we do this? Can we can you help me to work things out? You have to understand that you're going to someone who knows the job or who is proficient in his skills, and he has a certain aesthetics. You know,
So
these, yeah.
no, so when you're saying, in business terms, in Amazon, we have a number one leadership principle is you have to earn trust
Yeah,
first
yeah,
before you start anything. The most
absolutely.
important part of working in Amazon is you have to earn your trust from the people that you work with, and then start talking about things that you want to talk about. So this is exactly what you're saying.
And there's
Moving
one
on,
more thing I can add on. I'm sorry,
go
Nari. I
ahead.
think it's
Go
very
ahead.
important. See, the time that I traveled when I first made my trip to craft sector to what I am now, I realized what changed everything in the craft sector is inclusion of technology, which has actually changed everybody's life. Look at
Right.
you and me sitting and talking like this, as if
Right.
sitting in a spaces and having a conversation, and people are listening to us or not listening to us. But with the inclusion of technology, with the smartphones in their hand, they know what is happening in the world. They have
Right.
become aspirational. They are smart. They educate. I work with young. You know, I feel sometimes very overwhelmed. I'm really humbled. You know, when master craftsmen come and get their young sons to me and say, "Can you help him? Can you help him to understand how to work? You know, can you take him under your wing?" It's just so fulfilling, you know. And I don't think so I'm no great person. I'm just learning. I always think I'm on a journey that I have to learn. And if I understand, it's basic observation, it's basic patience, it,
Fantastic.
it's basic
Fantastic.
understanding. It's a process. I know it all. I don't know everything. I don't know
Right.
everything. It's a
Right.
learning process.
It's important to keep that in mind. So from all the different textiles and crafts that you have worked, which was the one that you really loved the most? And are there any kind of special motives that keep repeating in your work? Is it bandi? Is there a motive? Is there design? What is it that you would put as a number?
I'm so glad you asked me. So Bandhani, how it happened in 2000, after post the earthquake in 2001, the Ministry of Textile, Handicraft had selected a few designers, and they were not working in apparels. They were interiors and all of them. So I was one of them, and we went in 2003. We visited Kutch. I'd never visited Kutch. Now I fell in love with the place, the arid land, the colors of people, happy people. And the peak summer I went in May.
Right.
I was
Must be
there
beautiful.
again. I was there for again 2 weeks, and I traveled extensively because I had to identify a craft that we could help. So for me, it was I could not do Ajrak because Dhamarka was in shambles then, and they were still trying to relocate Dhamarka to Ajrakpur. But I definitely worked with Rabari embroiderers, and I also worked with Bandhani. I loved Bandhani; it was so beautiful. We were briefed that you have to make products that are cheaper. When you look at such exquisite work, you don't want to make anything cheap. And why should Indian craft be cheap? Yeah? And inexpensive. So what I did, because Bandi workers are paid by the dots they tie, I I just decided that we'll do motifs on Bandi motifs on whatever we're making. And that's the reason that I've got associated with motifing for Bandhani. It is nothing that it is something that I wanted to do. It was just the need of the hour. And it did very well. And I launched my first collection in Bandhani in 2004. And till date, it is strong. So it has been, it's been really good, because I realized, and I remember giving it to a store, and the store sold it very well. And they came back to me and saying that, now you've done one season of Bani, next season you should do something else. So I just turned around to the store. That was very interesting, because it was really hard for me to educate the stores and boutiques that I have to continue to sell what I am doing. And so I turned around to the store. I can't go back to the Bani artisan and tell him, like, listen, the store has done this. Now tomorrow you change. The craft. We'll change the craft altogether. You did Bani today, do something else tomorrow. So to work on the consistency was really, really a tough call. But I said I'm a non-conformist, and I was very adamant. I had to work in it, and I really got the support from the crafts people in the section. It was really interesting. So apart from Bandhani, I was also introduced to a craft, introduced to weaving culture of Bengal. And that happened in 1996. It was extremely interesting and a very good time to be in Bengal, because Bengal was doing a lot of work for, again, this designer called Yogendale. Yogendale, I will always appreciate him, because Yogendale was, I think, probably introduced by Martin Singh, and the whole thing was facilitated by HHEC. So it was very interesting to see that Yogendale was able to explore the expertise and the exquisiteness of the work and the weaves for the Bengal weavers, and especially of Pulia. It was interesting to see that you've never seen that people normally work in a craft sector or a weaving sector and don't pay. It's not about
sorry.
job. I'm telling them that they don't give too much value to other things apart from giving work to the weavers. But eventually, it was realized that they worked with weavers by imparting knowledge to them about dyeing, the process of dyeing,
right,
the process of finishing. So it is that it has to be a two-way
question,
process.
right? So some more questions out there. This is from Bhumi Dave, Pearl Academy professor. How do you get students excited about crafts?
A craft is like studying history. So some people will take up history, and some students won't take up history. So you can't force students, but do tell them this is your heritage, because the world is looking at India for it. You have to set examples. I've stated some examples right now that people have, and continuously people are working on Indian textiles. So if we don't do work on Indian textiles, somebody else is going to do it. Look at it from the point of view. What are the books that we refer to? They're all written by foreigners. Why don't we Indians write more books? We need to have more people writing books, more documentation, more understanding. Craft. We have to. There's so many things that you can do with it.
And you're absolutely right. In some of the best books that I have seen in textiles have all been written by people from outside. The brilliant manner, the way it has been put together, production, all the great books are from people outside. Not really very many Indians writing about these textiles. How do you get people involved in this?
The involvement is that you can't force people, Nari, to like something that they don't like. Now it's like
everybody's talking about sustainability now. Everybody's talking about where do you get this from?
No, and unfortunately, today is a instant gratification time. People will just wear something, can just wear anything which is out of context and say, oh, sustainable. What does sustainable mean to you? It's not only about environment. It's now about sustaining people's job. And now in this country, that has become of great importance, sustaining people's job, engaging people. I think probably people have gotten to, this is a conformed way of working in a closed environment where you have designers sitting, production team is there, you have tailors here, you have you have social media working, we have everything. Everything is within our comforts, So to be, and this is to go out of, it's going to be out of your comfort. Are you adventurous enough to do so?
Right. So it's a question that one has to ask themselves. If there is someone starting out here, you have to be sure if you are willing to this, and you cannot look for instant gratification. There's another question that has come on YouTube. May I have your thoughts on how these creative mixtures create a unifying cross-cultural language? When you say dance, when you say Japan, when you say Indian textile, how do these things come together for you? How do you bring all of these together? If I were to say there was a garment that brought all of these three things together, what would it look like? What would it be?
So for me, it is that it's me as a person. So it's my thought process. Dance is always movement in my work. Japan has taught me minimalistic and, declutter, think clearly. How would I look at it from a different point of view? To have a different point of view is important. I'm able to put things together in that manner. And as I said, I like to simplify things. I'm not going to go to a craft sector and say, okay, you have to simplify. I don't like your design. I have gone to a craft sector because I love the design. That's attracted to me. I have to see, can I incorporate craft in my work, which is on a minimalist basis. So
absolutely. So it could be maximalist, it could be minimalist. You could choose, but either way, you need to be dedicated and persevere to be
you
able
need to be wired and you need to be tuned. At the moment that we cannot have conversations as such, or I was supposed to make my trip to Kutch or wherever I wanted to go, I'm talking to the weaver craftsman over the phone. So we are deciding our color. We all have color charts. We know what to do. So there's a constant involvement.
Right. Next question. Where is it? Sambhavi, student from NIFT Delhi. How do you define the fine line between contemporizing craft / losing the essence of it? How much change a craft is acceptable and who defines that? Really nice question this is.
No, it is.
I'll read it. I'll go it again. How do you define the fine line between contemporizing craft or losing its essence? And how much of change is good for craft and who defines that?
So if we design, we need to be within the context of any craft practice. We have to understand that, right? You cannot just suddenly, if there's going to be over design, everything will start looking same. Whether it's, I'll give you an example. I was working out of Guntur and I was doing Mangalgiri. These are cotton, Mangalgiri textiles. So Mangalgiri is cotton with zari border. It's good cotton with zari border. And suddenly you saw that these saris started looking like Maheshwari because people have introduced mercerized yarns. Okay, so the structure has totally changed. The language has totally changed. If we change that language, which tends to happen when you are designing, I think somewhere you have to control that you need to have those traditional wear there. See, you'll always have the traditional, I'm sorry, Nari, but you'll always have the traditional if the weaver continues to work for the local market. Traditional will not go anywhere. Because he started from that.
My question here is, then what has evolution of fashion got to do with this? Are you suggesting that people will remain in their traditional structure? All of us, and historically what has happened is people have moved from villages to urban centers. Urban centers' lifestyle is different, running in a train, washing machine, all of that. What happens to the craft when you adapt it to a modern situation?
Look at it from that way. I just said one thing, inclusion of technology made all the difference. The craftsman he's not oblivious of what is happening. I get mails, be seeing whether it's a bark printer, whether it's a ajrak printer, whether it's a weaver. I mean, Bengal was known for Tangail weaves. Okay, Fulia will say. You know for Tangail, Tats they were weaving. They're doing
Right.
great combination because that, I mean, it was introduced by yoga and linen. They were doing linen by cotton, they were linen by wool, they were doing silk, all kind of silks they were weaving. So what you're doing is you honing the structure, you are honing the skills, exploration,
Right.
what you can explore. Mangalgiri,
Right.
for the matter, was only a sari, Nari. In
Right.
late 80s,
Right.
they started making dupattas. Then
Making
people,
kurtas. Yeah.
yeah, just the
Yeah.
dupattas started. Then suddenly it was
Right.
yardage with border.
Right.
Then people said, no, we don't want yardage with border. Can we have plain fabric? So the plain fabric came in. Some design came in,
Right.
some checks came in, some ikat came in. So that is the evolution. But they haven't lost the essence of their craft. That is important.
So, we have 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask you two questions quickly. Uh, uh, how can you, no, wait, with important, in these uncertain times of lesser opportunities in all sectors, what suggestions would you like to give to a budding designer who is yet to establish his label or her label? Two, famous brands for adopting inclusive approach to craftsmanship.
So
Number
budding
one, should I
design.
read again?
I will ask you again. So I'll say about the budding
Right.
designer. I said,
Right.
as I mentioned, why are you in a hurry to
Right.
have a design brand if that is what you're going to do? You've got time to learn a lot of things, time to expose yourself to things. There are a lot of documentaries, there are a lot of materials around to see. And you realize, because everybody, I think the preconceived notion is that we join a fashion college and we have to be designers. The stress on the college, the stress on the students, everybody. I think they
Right.
have to, I mean, there are so many avenues in fashion itself, in design
Right.
also. What area do you want to choose? That is important.
Right.
How do you want to incorporate? Who are the ones who are going to buy clothes? It's not necessary that
Right.
you go to couture and you go into what do you call bridal wear. And that's because you
Right.
see that is the money. That's one aspect. They are established people, whatever it is. How are you going to be focusing over there? You have to see there's so many avenues, so many genres. You have to find out what genre you want to do. Be
You want to
easy
find
on
out
yourself.
this.
Yeah,
The
and
second was
yeah, I can
the
say one.
second one was.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead. Go ahead.
and I think don't do it independently. Form a team.
Right.
You
Right.
need that
Form a
support. That support, that
collaboration.
teamwork. Yeah, collaboration and teamwork is very
I,
important.
this is what I was also looking at saying, designers who are coming out. First of all, like you said earlier, that you need a real time experience and learning. And once you finish college, it's not that
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
learned
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
real learning comes after you're in
We
the
did
first few
that.
years
We
of
had
working.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
At first
Yeah.
it comes in working, and probably then is when you would really start. But a good time for those people right now is a collaborative approach to doing something, doing a collective, 5, 6 designers coming together, fashion communication students coming together,
And there's
all
also
of
another
that.
option, Nari. Why do you
Right.
think that you need to be in a 9 to 5 job going six
Right.
days a week? Think about, okay,
Right.
if I work for 3 days a week, you know, you
Right.
still have
Right.
time to think about what you can do. It gives you that.
Right.
There's no hurry.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think the
Absolutely.
generation today, the problem is they are in a hurry. They have all planned that we go to college,
Right.
then we have a job, we'll do this and we make money and this. You're not going to be happy. It has to be a
Right.
journey where you enjoy. Yeah. Second
Yeah,
question.
exactly. Today, especially given how the world is changing, if
Yeah.
you do not enjoy what you're doing, then probably it is something. If you really want to be a designer, you need to love and do what you do because of passion. And I tell younger students, there are 3 things that really confirm that would qualify for a successful career. One is really having a state of a passion that drives you through obsession. The second one would be, say, having a sense of conviction, and the conviction that you had, and the same thing, the conviction that you had going to small towns, villages, and all of that to create yourself sustaining. and then finally evolving to the
That
changing
evolution is
environment to keep your
important.
business.
Yeah.
It is important. So those are the three things I say. And so we have one more question.
There was a
What
second
it's
part
from
to it.
Rishi. The second part to it was, what would you advise brands that are already there, how to incorporate sustainability in their business?
Well, first of all, I think brands should never go into large quantity work. And the quantity is what has killed everything. Inventories have been lost. I think this was happening. Things were slowing down. People were looking at it. Um, um, do good quality work.
Right.
Please be focused, because everybody is doing everything. It's like almost like a herd mentality. If they are doing this,
Right.
I'm going to do. And I think today I can say that when I look back, I sit back and look at people and I see a homogeneous look through the craft-based work, homogeneous look through this, which there is, but there are some who are doing interesting work, who are doing recycled work. There are so many. I think there is, when you're young, you can experiment. You can
Yeah,
try new
you have
things.
enough time to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So another question, last one. What is from Rishi Sharma, what are your views on business of sustainable fashion? And if you scale it, is it against the ethos of sustainable fashion? I think you answered that question
Yeah,
partly.
I did answer
Can
that.
do you get that?
Yeah, I did get that. I
Right.
did answer that. I mean, you have to, why scaling? What is the extent of scaling we are talking about? I've been on Indigo forums and people are talking, everybody should dye. And we have people who are gurus in dyeing and understanding
Right.
the dye itself, indigo. And they insist that everything has to be in indigo. But you realize in a country like ours, where we have so many poor people, and there are people who can't even afford, when natural dyes are pretty expensive. Yeah. So for a local market, it is going to be difficult, so and everybody, and then we are again going to the colonial period where we'll be just making, we are getting into a herd mentality. We have to let go of it. And
we have to let go. So you have to slow down.
Yeah,
So if
we
you have
have
to
to.
scale this kind of business, what about scalability when it comes to, say, fabrics like modal, Lysel or Leva or stuff like that, which are eco-friendly yarns? How does that allow scalability, or do you lose your ethos when you do that?
I'll say one thing. We are one of the largest producing cotton country, right?
Right. Yeah.
We have a lot of clusters and a lot of weaving areas that are just weaving cotton, right? And
Right.
when you will change it, their structure is going to change. We have to support.
Right.
I remember going for a conference and there was a gentleman from a corporate, and he turned around and he said, "Oh, and this is what I'm thinking, that everybody should be very careful of making statements like this." He turned around and said, "Cotton should be thrown out. We should do away with it. It's a wasteful fabric. It uses a lot of water and things like that." When the conference got over, I just got after him and I said, "You can't speak like that. There's a lot many livelihoods that are dependent on this yarn and this fabric that one is weaving. So you're going to say everybody's using a lot of water because cotton requires water. What about us?
Right.
We shower so often. Now we're washing our hands at the drop of the hat. So aren't we responsible for it? So you just can't blame it. You have to instead of blaming, find out ways and means to look into things, and
right. So in this march towards mechanization and technology and all that, there is a chance that we will leave behind a big part of our country that is dependent on these textiles for their livelihood, like cotton and weavers and all of these people.
No, I don't think so. I think the government has realized that it is very important. You have been there, and they know how important it is, because people have to be in the village. And I often wonder why people leave village and come to the city. But there are things
because they
that
don't get good prices for the work they do.
No,
That's why they want to do.
yes, and they don't have medical facilities. So isn't it that we have to develop a sustainable ecosystem and community in
Right.
limit itself? So you also
Okay.
limit the migrant workers. Yeah.
So to finish,
Yeah.
one last sentence from you. What is the advice that you would give a young student today getting out of school who believes that there is something they can do in this sustainable craft space?
Nary, it's consciousness and self-discipline. They have to realize, because everybody is aware of what is happening in the world, right?
Right.
And we don't have to really get after. I mean, if your business is small, then this is the right way to go. If you want to
Right.
expand, you incorporate other things into it. But this will be definitely there. Because sustainability is not that easy, but you can do recycling, you can do a whole lot of
Right.
things, and you don't have to see. We have now too many people who are going to wear clothes. We have too many people who are making clothes, but at the moment nobody is buying clothes, right? So this is
Right.
the harder hit industry at the moment. So to resurrect, it is going to be a tough call. It is going
It
to
will be
be,
tough.
it is a need base that is going to be required. Everybody
So,
wants to.
so a student getting out of school right now, 2020 batch, how do you think they should proceed?
I think there shouldn't be any hurry. There is no hurry. Hone your skills, learn. I hope there were incubation centers where they went and learned and ideated, innovated. This is what, more than colleges, I think you need to have incubation centers, because that is what it helps the students only, you know, and to realize what they want to do. It's just too much in a hurry. That's what I said. They've all been in a hurry. They want to get into a job. They want to do things. Take it easy. The world is not nice at the moment. It's,
And I tell students, you're looking at a world that you're going to live until you are 100, out
yeah,
of which you will be working until 80. You have
yeah,
60 years to work in this life, in going ahead normally, for giving the lifespan of most people. So take it easy, learn the ropes, play around stuff. I mean, like you said, no hurry to do anything
yeah. You
overnight
don't,
to
you
get
know,
into where you are.
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
one thing that I do when I speak to students at NIFT, when I get into a convocation, first thing I tell students is, not every one of you will be successful.
that's
Yeah,
true.
and I get it. And I get a look at the number of designers that are there. I mean, 15 designers, 20 designers over the last 20 years, 25, 30 years of NIFT.
Yeah,
They're really not big names. But I tell people also that everybody has an equal chance and opportunity
absolutely,
at success.
absolutely. Yeah,
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 everyone has an equal chance of success. And I say, regardless of where you come from, with money, without money, all of this, the opportunity is equal for everyone. You just need perseverance, diligence, and
patience.
patience.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
to
That's
get
true.
into it.
Yeah,
So, Sunita, thank you so very, very, very much,
pleasure.
and sharing your journey with us.
I'm so glad.
And I hope everybody on the chat enjoyed this chat. And thank you all for being here. I'm sorry we could not answer the deluge of questions that were there, but maybe Sunita will try and answer them separately, individually at some point, if there are a few questions. Thank you very much, everyone,
Thank
and
you.
good night. Have a
Good
great
night.
day.
Bye.